Florida man catches flesh-eating infection after his relative bites his leg.
Oh,
Fights between family members can get nasty, but they rarely involve necrotic limbs caused by flesh-eating bacteria. Unless, of course, you're in Florida. Everything's possible in that mad wonderland. Donnie Adams from Riverview had to step in to break up a tussle at a family gathering earlier this year. One of the fighting relatives somehow managed to bite him on his leg. Fast forward less than a week, and the 52-year-old was in the hospital. Flesh-eating bacteria had ravaged his leg and began rotting from the inside. To save his limb, not to mention his life, doctors ended up cutting away 70% of the flesh on the front of Adam's thigh. Still, he can count himself lucky, albeit heavily scarred, he got to keep his leg. Quote, I would never imagine that a human bite would turn into something so horrific as a flesh-eating bacteria, Adams told WFLA. On February 12th of this year, Adams was attending a family event when things came to a head between two of his relatives. He didn't go into details, but long story short, he got bitten on his left thigh. 2 days later, he noticed a small bump at the spot where his relative had sunk their teeth. The bite was also starting to get painful, so he went to the hospital. The doctors gave him a tetanus shot and an antibiotic. Yet his leg didn't start getting any better. Quite the opposite, in fact. By the third day, my leg was very sore, said Adams. I couldn't walk, and it was very warm and very painful. Now, in case you didn't know, pain and high localized body temperatures are telltale signs of infection, and not a mild one. So Adams went back to the hospital, and not a moment too soon. Examining his leg, the doctors made a small incision. Out from Adam's thigh oozed a gray, stinking liquid, which meant his leg was undergoing necrotizing fasciitis. Essentially, his flesh was dying and rotting under the skin. Quote, I looked at him and I said to him that I need to take you to the operating room, said Dr. Fritz Brink, an osteopathic physician at HCA Florida Pasadena Hospital in St. Pete. Adams took the news that his leg was basically dying off surprisingly well. Quote, they assessed my wound and it was very horrific. It was unbelievable, admitted Adams. But in my mind, I just had to get through whatever this was. Before Dr. Brink put Adams under in the operating room, he warned him that he would likely come out of the operating with a relatively big wound. After he got to work, though, he realized he had seriously underestimated the damage. Nearly all of Adam's thigh had been infected by the bacteria. What flesh hadn't already turned black and dyed was bright red and rotting. That left Dr. Brink with a difficult decision. You're torn between being as aggressive as you can be to stop the infection from spreading and leaving as much tissue behind so that it won't take 2 years to heal, Dr. Brink explained to Tampa Bay Times.
dude, what was this guy's family? Was he an alligator?
That's what I'm wondering. I don't know if it gets into that or not, but yeah, like, what was in this guy's mouth?
Yeah, I want to see his face and his teeth.
Despite not necessarily going all in, Dr. Brink had to slice away 70% of the flesh in the front of Adam's thigh. He also required a follow-up operation to remove parts that hiding bacteria had spread to again. Yet Adams got off easy. If he had come to the hospital a day later, he may have lost his leg or his life. Dr. Brink said that the next day the infection could have spread into Adams' abdomen and sent him into sepsis. It would have been tough to get control of the infection, he summarized. Following the surgery, Adams spent 3 weeks in the hospital recovering. He's still facing a 6-month treatment regime to regrow the flesh he lost. Dr. Brink is using a process called wound vac to help Adam's leg heal. It involves stuffing a sponge into the wound, sealing it with basically a plastic wrap, and then sucking out all the air from the wrapping. Somehow that helps the body to build up new blood vessels and regrow the flesh. Look, we're not medical professionals. We'll just take Dr. Brink's word on it. Adams himself doesn't remember feeling a bite during the family fight. What? However, according to Dr. Brink, there's really no other way his leg could have got infected. A human bite is dirtier than a dog bite as far as the kinds of bacteria that grows. Normal bacteria in an abnormal spot can be a real problem, he said. As such, Adams now encourages everyone to have doctors check even small wounds. You don't know what is going on underneath. It could be something that is life-threatening, he said. Adams has recovered the use of his leg and is able to walk, albeit with occasional pain. There is a spider web of fresh scar tissue on his thigh, but he sees the silver linings on it. What you see now, you see not just a scar, but the beauty of the aftermath. I'm grateful to have my leg and for the care I received, Adam said. That's a pretty great attitude to have after almost losing your leg to a filthy human bite. I mean, for one, I feel bad for this guy, not only because of that, but it sounds like he was actually the one like trying to break up a fight
between two other people.
one of them bit him on the leg. So I don't know. Maybe the guy didn't have like crazy stuff going in his mouth. It sounds like just like with the bacteria that can be in a human mouth, like if you bite someone, like you're taking that kind of risk. But this makes me think because like
Was a banjo playing at this family reunion or whatever they were?
well, it was Florida, so I'm guessing there's a good chance. But also, I kind of think like I've seen wrestling matches where like one wrestler will like bite another one, and like I'm sure there's some like working element involved.
Yeah.
So maybe they're not biting down all that hard, but. Part of me is thinking like maybe they shouldn't do that spot at all because now that I know this is a possibility.
Well, I mean, this person must have bit the hell out of him too. Like he must have he broke the skin.
I guess so, but the weird thing is, like in that last thing, he said like he didn't even really remember like being bit. I'm like, I would think you would remember.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that just shows you how much commotion must have been going on if he couldn't even remember that one of them bit him.
What a weird go-to though. If you're like
Like the leg of the person stopping the fight.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be one thing if you were biting the person you were actually like, pissed off at and fighting with, but to like bite the guy that's like trying to break it up, that's just a weird go-to. And also like biting his ankle, like getting down on the ground and biting his ankle.
That's so weird.
That's a very weird move.
Yeah.
Only in Florida, folks.
My gosh.
Only in Florida.
Keep it classy, Florida.